Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wisdom from North, another conversation. My name is Jannike, and I'm here today with Terje Toftenes, who is an award-winning filmmaker, producer, director, writer, speaker, and he runs his own company called New Paradigm Films, and they make documentary features about paranormal phenomena and explore concepts that are outside our current view on reality. And today we're going to talk about his film The Day Before Disclosure, which was released in 2010, and it presents the UFO phenomenon in the world today, and also contains a lot of revelations from like high-ranked military personnel, even former retired astronauts, politicians, historians. It's a great movie. It's a mind-blowing movie, and it's actually free to watch on YouTube, which I really like. Tadia, thank you so much for accepting to do this interview.
My pleasure.
You're being a great sport. We just had another because we talked about your newest movie called Levende Helse, which is about quantum physics.
Among other things, yes, quantum physics and epigenetics and consciousness research and stuff like that, yeah.
Great, but now we're going to talk about UFOs, and I'm really curious about your way into this. Like, why did you make a movie about UFOs? Where did this interest start or come from?
Well, my interest in this subject actually started from when I was a kid. My father, back in the 50s, he had experiences, and he bought a book called Flying Saucers Have Landed by George Adamski. It was translated into Norwegian and was published in Norway in 1953, I guess. So when I was a kid in the early 60s, I found this book in my home, and I read it, and from that day my interest was triggered. I was completely overwhelmed and fascinated by the subject. And I even did a kind of a report or what do you call a short story at school, you know, where you make these, write these, well, I don't know what you call them in English, but anyway. I did this report on UFOs when I think I was 12 or 13. And of course, everyone in the class laughed at me and thought I was absolutely loony that could be so into a subject like that. But over the years, my interest developed, of course. I read a lot of stuff, and I also experienced that many people who were interested in this topic actually were ridiculed and laughed at, you know, like I was myself. And when I started talking about this subject at work, you know, people, oh, please, Tadia, come on, you know, this is all just for fun, you know, poor guy. But I had a feeling all the way that this was something that was of a much more serious kind of stuff. So when I later in my life, when I had the opportunity to start traveling and made my own money, I went to see people and to conferences that where this topic was an issue. And I decided after many years to try to make a film about it, because by that time I'd been working as a documentary filmmaker, and I was with the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation for a while, learning to make TV stuff, you know. So I thought that one day I'm going to make a film on this subject. And 4 years ago, that dream came true when we started doing. Or let's say we started back in 2006 or 7, I guess it was.
We kind of started with the crop circles film,
we did
didn't
a film first on the crop circle phenomenon, which is a very special and intriguing phenomenon, particularly in Britain. So we did a film that was it was welcomed around the world, and it's been selling around the world, and that kind of told me that it's possible to go further on. And we have this special place in Norway where there have been a lot of UFO observations over the years, a place called Hessdalen. And we did a documentary on the Hessdalen phenomenon, and that was when we were in the middle of that we decided to try to also do a larger documentary on the global UFO phenomenon, which we did that. So we traveled around trying to find the most credible people, the best researchers, people with stories that seemed credible, and the most serious people in the business, so to say. And very early we got in contact with Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who was the sixth man on the moon, earlier NASA astronaut, which also believes that there is a truth much larger than we are presented from our authorities, and who is totally convinced that there is an alien agenda. And I met him in Oslo because he was doing a lecture on the space program here at the University of Oslo. And I told him that I had this idea of making a documentary on the global UFO phenomenon. And he said, that's a very interesting thing to do, but you have to be aware because you're stepping into a minefield, he said. There is a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of fabricated disinformation. There's a lot of people making up a lot of stuff. And it's very hard to kind of filter out what you really can rely on, what type of information is really has some sense in it. And that's what we discovered when we started doing all these interviews and going to different conferences, that some of this stuff seems very reliable. And there are also a lot of people out there trying to surf the wave of, if you step up on a podium and telling people that you have seen a UFO or have had face-to-face contact with aliens, you get a lot of attraction. And it's very, you don't have to come up with a lot of proof. You can just say that this happened to me, and there will be a lot of people that kind of, wow.
Yeah.
So that's a part of the whole situation, that it's very, you have to be kind of very critical when you interview people to see is this really something that happened to them? Is this a real experience, or is it just a fabulation, or is it a combination of a real experience and fabulation? It's sometimes very hard to tell.
Yeah, that's why I was so impressed, because after seeing this movie I was not in doubt, because you interviewed people with, in high rank, like people in the military system who are retired, but they have started talking, and then it's really trustworthy.
Yeah, so that's what we did. We tried to find people that really had no reason to make up things. And when you are when you have retired from the military, and you go public, starting to tell things in this category that is very, very controversial, you kind of set your whole reputation on stake. And you wouldn't do that if there really was a heavy reason for doing it. You will be laughed at. You will be, lose your credibility. Your neighbors will start looking at you in a very special way and all that. So to go through all that trouble, there really must be something more behind it than just to gaining attraction,
Yeah, and a lot of people in the movie, or everyone, is nearly saying the same, that there's been going on a huge cover-up from the government.
Yeah, well, that's the general opinion that we were, met with, especially from military personnel, radar operators, jet fighter pilots, also, as normal pilots on normal passenger liners, and etc. They say that this topic is so hot that it is not to be spoken of when you are in service. If you have observations, you can report them. You will be debriefed, but you are told in the debriefing that this is nothing that the media or the general public should be told. And there are many reasons for that, and many reasons that are quite logical, because obviously, I'm totally convinced, but this is my personal opinion, I have to say. I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a kind of a very well-developed researcher in any way. I'm just a journalist, but I've talked to so many people, and so many people that I find credible, and I also have seen things myself, of course, that I'm personally totally convinced that we are being and have been visited from other cultures in the universe for long time back, probably as long as this civilization has existed, and even further back. And this has been going on all the time, and it excuse me, and it seemed to have kind of almost exploded. At least the amount of observations seemingly exploded when we exploded the A-bomb back in the 40s, when we suddenly, as one of the people we interviewed said very clearly, that there was suddenly a situation where we, as a very barbaric civilization who just had this enormously terrible war, where we did all these terrible things, the Second World War, and at the end of that war we came up with a weapon that was strong enough to blow up the whole planet, and at the same time we came up with rockets being able to send these things into space in the late 40s. And of course that was a totally new situation, with both the weapon and the possibility to send it out from our planet, and also the kind of ethical and the kind of moral we had as species, being so extremely violent as the human species can be. So this, of course, must have attracted attention from others outside who were monitoring us, that something is going on here now that we really should be watching, because this situation can turn into something that is not good for anyone. So there was a lot of UFO observations around that time in the late 40s, early 50s. And of course there were rumors that some of these craft were shut down. Excuse me again. Because especially around the place where the United States kept their weapons in New Mexico, and also where they had did experiments with the new rockets in New Mexico, around the area called Roswell, in that area. They had extremely forceful radars, because when they did these experiments with rockets, they were following them on radar. So they had developed some extremely powerful radars, and it seemed that when these because the alien spacecrafts came into these radar beams, they lost the ability to maneuver, and some of them went and crashed, which is the one of those crashes was the so-called and very famous Roswell crash. There's a lot of rumors around that situation, but Edgar Mitchell, who we interviewed about this, he actually grew up in Roswell, and he was in his youth when this happened, the Roswell crash. And he told me in the interview that when he came back from the moon, he was and came back to his hometown, he was found, people found him very credible, and they came and told him stories about what actually had happened back then in the late 40s. And the undertaker told Edgar that after this crash he was ordered to produce coffins like 1 meter long, four of those coffins for the military. The undertaker told Edgar Mitchell. So Edgar said that was just one of many things that I heard and that I was told when I got back that convinced me that this was actually something that had happened. It was not a weather balloon, as many people claim it to be. 4 coffins for 4 beings. For 4 beings, approximately, like 3.5 or 4 foot long.
Wow. Okay.
Well, and like Edgar said, he when he was coming back from the moon, he had this very special experience himself. Well, not a UFO experience, but he kind of figured out that there must be a much larger picture. I mean, we were then able to go to the moon, and civilizations may be not just 100 or 500 or 1,000, but maybe 1,000,000 years ahead of us. Of course, they have developed technologies that make them able to travel and to exceed the speed of light and all that.
Yeah.
So he said it's absolutely totally naive and stupid to, I mean, have this belief that we are the only inhabited planet in the universe.
I mean, this is many years ago, and we still don't hear about this in the media or in the news or from the government. And your film is called The Day Before Disclosure. Do you think, I mean, there will be a day where we actually, the government is telling us, if this is true, that we have contact, and this is the case?
Well, when we started this project, I actually was of the opinion that someday the government is going to tell us the truth, because I've found out through all the interviews that, of course, the government must have a lot of information. Like, for example, when you interview people who have been in charge of missile sites where they, where around the US, they have a lot of these missile bunkers. I don't know what you call them in English, actually, but where they have atomic warheads on a missile and it can shoot out, So on many of these installations, there have been UFOs coming over them and actually destroying the warheads. And there was actually a conference now, just a couple of years back, staged in Washington in the International Press Club, on initiative from Robert Hastings, which is one of the very well-known and well-reputed UFO researchers. I think he had 4 or 5 or 6 of these people who had been in charge of different missile installations telling the same story, that UFOs had been damaging or disarming or whatever it was called, these missiles. And when you hear things like that, and of course you ask yourself, why doesn't this come out in the media? And I just felt that it must be just before this is going to, blow up like the biggest sensation on the planet, that these things have happened, and it's still going on, and there are thousands and thousands of military reports about these things. We talked to fighter pilots who could say that at some time they had daily contact with these, we'll call them flying saucers or whatever they call them.
They had contact with the beings, or just they saw
it
observed?
and they were told to go after them and to chase them away and to...
By the government or by the military?
By the military, to try to shoot them down or whatever. That was going on all the time back in the 50s, the 60s and 70s, and probably still goes on. But it seems now that these other beings have changed their type of equipment, because, I mean, we have advanced enormously in our technological ability to track things, So I guess they have just... They are doing things in a bit different way now. They're not that visible as they were back in the 50s and 60s. But anyway, I was totally convinced that this was a reality, and I still am. And I was kind of pretty convinced that this was going to break out as big news pretty soon. So that's why we said that this must be almost the day before disclosure. That's why we put that name on the film. But when we finally ended the project, and after these, I think we did like 60 interviews, I kind of came to another conclusion. I'm not so sure that this is going to be revealed from the government or authorities, because there are so many implications that I fully can understand why this has been kept a secret. Because, I mean, first of all, we still probably don't know really what this is, who they are, where they come from, what their intentions are, what their agenda is. We know very little about that. So if the military, or if a president of the United States or whatever was going to go on TV and say, hello folks, I just have to inform you about this situation that we are every night being visited by something from outer space that has totally control over how they are monitoring us. They come in sometimes alone, sometimes in swarms, sometimes they pick up some of our people and examine them medically. But we don't know where they come from. We don't know who they are. We don't know what their agenda is, and don't know what kind of plans they have, and we're not able to do anything about it. So just to inform you, that's what's going on, and good night, and God bless you all, I mean, if a president had done that, it would probably be one of the last thing he would do as president.
Still, don't we deserve to know the truth?
Of course we deserve it, but I think that the authorities feel that they have kind of an obligation to protect people from these things that could come as a response to this, because the situation could come completely out of control. I mean, first of all, the people would accuse the military of not doing their job, and they would accuse the politicians of being open and frank. So that, I mean, it would be totally chaos, They would, I mean, and there's another thing, that there's, of course, a lot of rumors saying that many of these so-called or these UFOs that have been crashed, they have of course had a technology much more advanced than ours, and this technology has been back engineered, and rumors say that some of the, at least in the United States, this technology has been well, what do you say? I mean, it has been back engineered in a way so that they know how it works, and especially the energy systems, because obviously spacecraft coming from some 2,000 light years across the universe, they don't bring a tank of fuel, of petrol, or they don't carry windmills or solar panels. I mean, they have found a code how to tap energy much more directly from the original source. And rumors say that at least in the inner circles of the military system in the U.S., they have been able to get hold of this technology, but they do not dare to open it up or to bring it to the surface, because it's much more powerful than an A-bomb. And if that type of technology should fall into the hands of, let's say, terrorists, it would be game over for the planet, That's just one side of it. And of course, then you have the other side of it saying that the oil cartels, they will not allow any type of competitive technology to surface as long as we have a lot of oil, because that's good business and all that. But I mean, if disclosure should happen, if President Barack Obama should go on stage and say, they are here, we know that they are here, then of course there would be a large claim from the public to get the technology. And that would also create a situation that would be very difficult to control. So and just think about religion. I mean, I guess the Pope would not be so very happy if there was a bunch of aliens coming to tell him that what you have been doing for the last 1,000 years is just, bullshit. It's not the way it is. The things are totally different. So there's a lot of suppression also by religious leaders, by military leaders, by politicians, that this must be kept a lid on until at least we know and can know how to control it.
Yeah, there are many interests, and still we don't. We don't know if there's just one specific intelligence. They say that there are several, right? Which seems logical. You interviewed a woman that had been abducted, and she had a take on that. That she said that she was taken by the Greys, and that they were interested in human beings because we had such range of emotions.
I'll just show you something. If you have the film here, if you look at this picture, on the cover of this DVD, we have used the image of a so-called gray alien, which is the most common symbol of aliens. And this is what people that claim to have been abducted, they tell about these so-called gray aliens. The reason why they call them gray aliens is probably because they look gray, and they have these big almond-shaped eyes and very large heads, thin bodies. They have hands with just 4 fingers. And some of them are just like this tall, like a meter or 1.20 meters. And some of them are taller still. And what is very special with all these abduction stories, I have met at least 20 people who claim to have been abducted, and from different parts of the world, from both Europe and United States, and also South America. And of course I've read a lot of stories, and what is very special is that there is so many parallels in these stories. They tell about the same things. They describe the same type of creatures. They describe the same type of environment. They describe the same type of procedures. So, I mean, it seems quite logical to draw the conclusion that this cannot be fantasy only, because people from different parts of the world telling almost the same story. I mean, how can you explain that? Mm-hmm. And I've been talking to women who claim to have been mothers of so-called hybrids, where they tell how they have been abducted and they have been inseminated with and been, and when they come back they feel that they're pregnant, and after 3 months of pregnancy suddenly they wake up one morning and the thing is gone. And it's also some of these women who have then been having a medical, they've gone to the doctor to have a checkup, and the doctor says that you have obviously been pregnant, and I have never ever seen an abortion been done with such precision, and the wounds been healed in such a way. Like one woman described that the doctor said that he wanted to know which doctor had done this operation, because he had never ever seen it done in such a proper way,
Wow. So they're doing experiments on us.
Well, that's what they say. I mean, we don't have any physical, real proof except from what they tell. But as I said, when so many people tell the same story, and we did interviews with some of the most famous researchers, like Bud Hopkins, Dr. David Jacobs from Pennsylvania, who also has a course at the university in Philadelphia on UFOs, actually the only course on the planet. And he says that my principals look very much forward to the day when I will retire, because it's not very popular for the university to have that kind of course, But he's been doing it all the time, and it's been a very popular course. But anyway, he's been doing research on this for like 30 years. But Hopkins as well. We also talked to Dr. John Mack before he left us. He was killed in an accident a couple of years back. And also Barbara Lamb, who is a very famous researcher. And these have been doing interviews with abductees, usually during hypnosis. And they all seemingly tell very much the same story. And what they have found out through these sessions, thousands and thousands of sessions, is that this phenomenon, the abduction phenomenon, has been going on for at least 100 years. And it seems to go in families. When the father is abducted, then the kid, then the grandson, and so on. And so they seem to kind of follow different bloodlines. And there's also, of course, then lots of reports of this so-called hybrid projects where women have met their own hybrid children up in these crafts. But I mean, it's a huge topic. It's what Dr. David Jacobs says is that they did a survey back in 2002, I think it was, to try to find out how many people in America had actually been in contact with this topic, abductions. And through that survey, which was conducted by a very well-renowned public survey type of company. I don't know the English word for it. But the result of the survey was that at least 2% of the American public had been in contact with this topic, many of them without actually knowing it. But so this tells us that there are tens and tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people who have been in contact with this.
And many afraid of talking about it.
And most of them are very afraid of talking about it. Most of them have just some kind of vague memory, because these guys seemingly have the technology to kind of black out your memory, or to delete your memory in some way.
But what do they want? Why are they doing this to us?
Well, that's the big question. And as Dr. Jacobs says, after doing research on this for 30 years, that still I cannot tell you why they're doing this. I don't know their agenda. I don't know if they are planning to take over the planet, or if they're just developing a new race or whatever. But I have to say that one woman that we did an interview with, Nadine Lalich, living in Los Angeles, she is... that's the most remarkable interview I think I've ever done.
Is that the woman on in the movie?
She's in here too. She has been, well, at least she claims to have been abducted for over a period of 20 years. She's a woman who has been working in a law firm all her life, so she has a very, kind of credible job. But she's been abducted on a kind of very frequent basis for like over 20 years. And
she's conscious about it.
Oh yes, she said I asked her on a scale from 1 to 10, on which level of consciousness were you in are you in when you are abducted? And she said that in the beginning, she would say that it was like on a 2 or 3 on this scale. It was just like a kind of a very lucid dream. But over the years, she developed a kind of a more conscious state, and she said that now, when they pick me up now, I would say it's rather more like 8 or 9, because now I'm able to communicate.
Oh, really?
So she... And...
so how do they communicate?
Well, it's of course it's telepathically. But she has been able to communicate and to ask questions, and she says that usually they really don't answer you, or they just give you kind of very vague answers. But she has developed a special contact with what she calls an alien scientist, who has been doing a program with her and several other people or abductees. And this program has had... it has been kind of testing out their reactions on different types of images that they give them. So they kind of project an image into their head, and then they monitor their emotional reactions.
Like images that the humans have seen before, or from...
No, like some type of scary image maybe, or some type of image that evokes feelings of love and passion. Any type of image that you can put into your head that can create an emotional response. They put into her, and then they kind of, with different instruments, monitor her reactions, emotional reactions. And what she said is that she suddenly discovered, and I mean, to me, this is the really peak of the whole thing in this film. And in all my studies and traveling and visiting people who are into this UFO field, to me this was kind of the most crucial point when she told me this, which kind of make many pieces fall into place for me at least. She said that I suddenly had an aha. I suddenly realized what they were doing and why they were doing it. Because what they were doing is that they were trying to figure out my emotional patterns, my emotional states. So they were doing a research program on human emotions, because they don't have it themselves. They seem to be emotionless. They seem to be just like programmed robots, many of them. So they don't have this emotional aspects, this emotional architecture that we humans have. And they want it, she said. They want to learn about our emotions, and they want to create a new race that is
Really?
that is a mix, a blend of the human and their race. They have they're in her what she said is that they are extremely mental, advanced mentally. They can read your mind, they can monitor your thoughts like that, and so they have developed a type of mind control that is way beyond what we even can fantasy about. But they don't have the emotional side to their being as we do. And she said that's at least the beings that she has been in contact with, that is their agenda, that they want to find the key to create this type of emotions within their own race.
Yeah, because...
that confirms to me, at least when it comes to the abduction thing, that that's probably the case, that we humans, when you look at the way we live our lives, what is it really that creates the most interest? What is it that most of the books that we write on this planet are about? What are the television series about? It is about people reacting with people, human ways of reacting to other humans, how we create these dramas between us. All these TV series that are about human dramas is about the human emotional side. Yeah. It seems to be the agenda in the human architecture, emotions. So on this planet, to me it seems that we are here to experience the emotional side of the human being, and on that we will grow as souls. But other places in this vast universe, there are other agendas, and some of these visitors come here to monitor and to do research on our emotional architecture. That's what it tells me. But again, it's I can't prove anything, but that's what I have a good inside me. That's what I feel it is.
Yeah.
At least.
But that's the grace. I just interviewed Richard Dolan. That was through you, actually. You know him, and he told about tall, blonde people living here, and also you in the lecture that I went to, you showed a clip from a woman talking about just beautiful beings, just spreading love and taking care of us.
Yeah, indeed. So the abduction scenarios are usually conducted by these so-called greys. But there are a lot of other visitors, probably, because people report having seen these so-called tall blondes, looks very much like Scandinavians. And we did an interview with one woman who who was taken into a craft by two tall blondes. Very, very blue eyes, very whitish hair, but looked very much like humans. Their ear flips were a bit longer, but apart from that, they looked very human-like. Talked to her telepathically and gave her a message that they were very concerned about the way that we treated our planet, and that we were on the edge of really destroying the whole biosphere on this planet with the way that we polluted. So they told her to try to inspire her fellow humans to start thinking differently, because this could not go on for so very long. That's what they told her. So we have reports of very human-like beings, and also reports of beings totally on the contrary, like big insects. Oh. And actually, the woman that I just told you about, that had this, was part of this kind of scientific study that they did. The being that was conducting that study had an insect-like image, like a praying mantis, what it's called in English. But very extremely intelligent, and very warm, very caring, but not with many emotions. But she felt very relaxed and not afraid at all when she was with this being. And she also told about these other beings that have been reported that are more like reptile-like. So there seems to be a whole different range of beings. And I mean, when we look at our own planet, like we have at least some billion different types of insects only, not to speak of all the other animals and beings on this planet. It's a variety that is probably maybe a mirror of what is out in the cosmos. You never know. I mean, it's... I would say that, I mean, when things have developed on this planet as it has, why shouldn't it have developed elsewhere? I mean, where the conditions are similar. I mean, when you see all the stars in the sky, and you know that there are almost an infinite numbers of them, then it's absolutely crazy to believe that this is the only place where life has developed. So, but I mean, every possibility is open.
I just have to speak about that Starchild skull, because that's a great example. And can you tell about that?
Well, this special skull was found in Mexico many years back by a young girl. I think she was like 14, 15. She was visiting some relatives. She was from the US, but she was visiting some relatives in Mexico. And one day she went out by herself and found this cave. And in this cave, she found 2 skulls, or actually 2 skeletons. And she was very curious, so she took the 2 skulls and some of the other remains of these skeletons, and she hid them under some bushes outside the cave. Because she wanted to take them with her to back to the States. So when she got back a week after, or what it was, before she was going to leave, there had been a heavy rain. So many of the remains were kind of gone down the river, but she found the 2 skulls and took them with her. And this one of the skulls were obviously human, but the other one was very strange. That's why she wanted to take them with her. And she kept them in her home for many, many, many years. And then when she was an old lady, she gave them to a couple who were interested in UFOs. And they found out at once that this one skull could not be, it didn't look like a human skull at all. And so they gave it to a scientist who started doing investigations. And now this skull, called the Starchild skull, because it was given the name Starchild because it seemed to have come from the stars, has been examined both physically and also with they have been taking DNA tests of it. And the DNA test very clearly shows that it is not a human skull. It is not. The DNA has no parallel in any type of mammal or human type of creature on the earth at all. And the skull is it's much thinner than a human skull, but even though it's just 1/3 in thickness of a human skull, it's much harder. So it seems to be of another type of material as well. And we had the guy here called Lloyd Pye, who has been the main investigator, and he was here in Oslo to show this skull and to give a lecture about it. And in that occasion, we invited the Norwegian Museum, who do investigations on, it's called the Nature Historic Museum, you know. So we invited a lot of people from there to come to see the lecture, but unfortunately no one showed up. And I don't know why, but I would guess that this probably is so controversial that it doesn't fit into the big picture, so it's not interesting, you know.
Maybe it's scary.
Or maybe it's scary. But anyway, this skull has just recently undergone the new DNA tests, which confirm the first tests that it's not a human skull. But what will happen to it further, I don't know. But this brings us actually to the kind of paradox here, because there are a lot of remains on this planet which are unexplainable, like the big pyramids. We know that they're there. We have different types of theories on how they are made and when they are made and all that. We have a lot of other old artifacts that are very difficult to explain. How humans, like in the Incas, could have carried these stone blocks of 70 tons up all the mountains and make them fit so closely together that you cannot even put a knife in between, you know. How was that possible 1,000 years ago? So, and all, there are a lot of stuff that is unexplainable. And you have all these UFO reports on top of it. And but still, science is very conservative. It does not want to recognize these things that does not fit into the picture. And of course, it's logical in one way, but still it's very unlogical. Why are we not willing to open up to try to see things even if they don't fit? Of course, I can understand if you're an archaeologist and have kind of spent your whole life studying, and like if you were studying the Egyptian pyramids, and you finally come up with a theory and have they done it, and you're pretty sure that that's the thing, and you have kind of spent your whole life trying to convince everybody else that that's the thing, and then suddenly comes and say, hey, those pyramids were built 30,000 years before you think they were built.
Then your ego is crushed.
And you're not willing in no way that you're going to accept that, you know. So because of these extremely strong egos that are within every human being, and also within every scientist, and within every scientist group and every scientist organization, it's very hard to kind of come further with these new things, because there's so much resistance.
That's why your movie is very important.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we did this movie, because we wanted to give people at least an opportunity to see something outside the box. And I believe that when you have all these testimonials from both, as I said, NASA astronauts, jet fighter pilots, military radar operators, missile chiefs, commanders, and a lot of other people telling the same story, that these things have been happening all the time. We have seen it on radars. We have had contacts with them. They are destroying our atomic weapons in the US, in Russia, in England. They have been filmed. They have been, you know. The documentation is so overwhelming that it's just absolutely unbelievable why this still is kept a secret. But of course, as I also said earlier, many reasons, obvious reasons why it has to be kind of held a lid on. But still, I believe that disclosure must happen someday.
Yeah, and still we're free to think what we want to think.
But I don't think this disclosure will come as a result of some government deciding to disclose it, because it will create a situation that is very impossible to control. So disclosure will come, I believe, when either if these guys or some other group decides to really step out in public and say we are here. Like if there were like 100 flying saucers hanging over Oslo, it would be impossible to to neglect or to oversee. Or it must come the way that there are a lot of people who have had experiences, and that there is kind of a grassroots movement saying that we know that this is happening because we have seen it, we have pictures of it, we have contact with it, and now you, as the military authorities or governments, you have to come forth with what you know. In England, they have the authorities, the Ministry of Defence has released a lot of reports over the past years, of course, but mainly reports from civilians, not so many military reports. Except
so things are happening.
Things are happening, and they will happen more and more, I'm absolutely sure. But I don't think President Obama, nor the next guy who's in charge, is going to come up with the key to open this box. It has to come from somewhere else. At least that's my personal opinion.
Thank you so much. This was really an interesting conversation and an important conversation, I believe.
I guess we covered like 1% of the total topic, but anyway.
We've been talking for a long time, but yeah, it's huge. So people can watch this on YouTube, and they can buy it on New Paradigm Films?
On our website, newparadigm.no, you can buy the DVD copy. Or you can watch it on YouTube. We decided to make it kind of as a free thing on YouTube because we felt it was very important to get this message out. Of course, we put a lot of hours and efforts and money into making it. So
4 years.
So if you would want to buy the DVD copy, you're absolutely very, very welcome to do that. But feel free to watch it on YouTube. It's there's a lot of very interesting people saying a lot of pretty interesting stuff. So
I can highly recommend it. So thank you so much, and good luck with your next project.
Thank you so much. And good luck with your project too. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. And I think I'm actually going over to the US to do some interviews myself there. So it's an exciting project. Thank you guys for watching. Keep looking at my websites for new interviews, and I will get more interviews in English in time. Take care. Bye.